So be sure you be careful what you say and your eye rolls because it will be on camera. So monitor what you're doing. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt Reiner with Eversound. And Matt, I will now shut up and mute myself and you can take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Micah, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share a little bit about the future of in-person visits. And I have to say, and I'm sure anybody out here who has met Micah, talked to Micah, even seeing him here today, your passion and your excitement is contagious, my friends. So please keep it up. I feel like I don't need to drink coffee around you, which is definitely a good thing. So thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And if we can give you some minutes back to your day here, I am all for it. As Micah mentioned, my name is Matt. I'm one of the co-founders of Eversound. Won some awards, not that big of a deal, but really the inspiration to start Eversound was what I saw my own grandmother go through. So she lived to be the beautiful age of 93 and spent the majority, the last few years of her life, really her quality of life was pretty poor. She wouldn't go to programs, wouldn't go to events, wouldn't even go to meal times. And when I would ask her more about that, it would all stem really from her hearing loss. She was the type of person that did not want to wear hearing aids, and she would basically just isolate herself in her room, blast her television, or listen to her romantic fantasy novels, which was definitely a different side of her because from what I heard, they were not PG, but that was pretty much her quality of life, and it was trying to help people like my grandmother originally to engage in group programs that we've set out on this mission to start Eversound that, happy to say, we're currently impacting over 750 communities across the country. So as we jump into it, before I really get into it, I want to thank you all. You guys are heroes, especially a lot of the frontline staff. You guys are doing amazing things in the communities here. And I just feel grateful that we're able to help empower you all. And please know that I know like a lot of the times the news likes to focus on the negative things. But here today, I'm hoping to really showcase that we do appreciate all the hard work you guys do day in and day out. And I'll even showcase some news clippings here that are actually more positive. So what to expect in our time here together. We're going to talk about in-person visits today, some solutions to reconnecting loved ones and their family, some physical distancing technology that supports teams and residents, tips for keeping up resident, family, and staff morale, and then expectations for the future of visitors in senior livings. And just a quick disclaimer, owners and administrators and people working in communities should really refer to the guidance from state and local officials when making decisions about relaxing restrictions in conjunction with federal guidelines. So let's jump into it. I want to showcase just, this came out a couple of weeks ago from a community or a couple of communities in New Mexico about what the current status of the visits look like now. So let me play this out here for you.
Many senior living facilities in New Mexico are getting ready to welcome visitors again for the first time in months. The state announcing yesterday in-person visits will be allowed again with certain guidelines in place. News 13's Annalisa Pardo talked with facilities about how they are preparing for guests.
The senior facilities I talked to say it's exciting to bring visitors back, but it's a lot of planning to keep everyone safe.
With that comes that added responsibility of being able to keep our residents safe and healthy. So, we want to put the very best plan possible together.
Haven Care suspended all visits in March and says it's still figuring out details of how it will allow in-person visits, but is currently buying PPE for residents and visitors. The Suites Rio Vista and Rio Rancho says it will have guests sit outside on the ends of 2 tables in between them, so they are 10 feet apart. The tables will also have plexiglass dividers. While they plan to screen visitors with questions and temperature checks, it says making sure all guests are healthy may be the biggest challenge.
We don't know where they've been. We don't know if they're telling us the truth when we screen them. They have to understand that, we have to follow these rules that the MAT team and the governor's group and long-term care and aging set up for us for the safety of their loved ones.
Rio Vista also plans to only allow one guest at a time to sit with a resident and plans for the visits to be 45 minutes. People can visit nursing homes that meet the state's criteria starting Monday. Back to you.
Nursing home visits can only happen in counties where COVID-19 cases are low and at facilities that do not have any active COVID cases.
And so I showcase with that just to kind of give you an idea of what the current state of visits kind of looks like. Again, this is just New Mexico, so the guidelines there are really starting to take place. And I think this video came out like 2 or so weeks ago. And I'm super excited to see that more and more communities are looking to do these visits. I think we all understand the importance of seeing loved ones and having positive interactions with them. Because I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is just like social isolation, and more people are coming out and saying that social isolation will be a greater threat to healthy aging than obesity. There's more and more studies coming out showing that social isolation and hearing loss are really tied to all of these negative health outcomes, such as increased risk for stroke or coronary heart disease, increased risk for dementia, and just even accelerated death. And that's why I'm so excited to see that more and more communities are looking to do these safe in-person visits. And we even have people taking extreme measures to visit their loved ones. And I want to share this other news article with you. Feel Good, some of you may have seen it, kind of went viral, but about an individual taking up a dishwasher job in order to see her husband.
For 114 days.
You see him touching.
This was as close as Mary Daniel and her husband Steve could get.
I'm gonna come give you a hug real soon.
Steve is in a nursing home with early onset Alzheimer's. Visitors not allowed except through a window.
There's no way to explain to him that why this is happening and how long is this going to happen. And so he cried.
Mary felt like she was breaking her vow to be by his side.
I promised him I would be there, and I wasn't.
Then she learned the nursing home needed a dishwasher.
And dishwasher it is, whatever you've got available, I'll take.
What was that moment like when you got to see him in person?
I knocked on his door. I mean, obviously he's not expecting me, and Mary was the first thing he said, and came over and we had just had a really great hug. We both started crying.
She continues to get tested for COVID and has to work hard, but she shows up with a smile and a message for her husband.
He is deeply loved and that he will never be alone. And that's the best.
And so, feel good story. We love to see it, taking extreme measures to go visit her husband. And, I don't think I really need to talk about this, but I do want to share in terms of like the impact that COVID-19 has had on senior living. So for residents, we see this increased risk of social isolation. We're starting to see these impacts on mental health due to the lack of interaction and with the schedule disruption. But also we find that some residents are finding this risk of losing perceived value of what's getting paid for and really impacting some of these long-term lifestyle changes. For families, we see this uncertainty about what is going on in a community, concern over health and safety of loved ones, also seeing that loss of value in what their loved one was going to receive, and the inability to communicate with the community as often. From the staff, again, some of the real heroes out there, the exhaustion and staff burden due to short staff and more regulations in place, and that emotional impact of not being able to carry the same way for residents as we used to do. And it's with all of this that we kind of see the status of in-person visits today. And, in at least 10 states, we see skilled nursing guidelines also apply to assisted living care. If your state often includes assisted living under long-term care, these guidelines may apply to your state, but of course you'll want to check your state for specifics. And this is some of the guidelines that are coming from CDC. They haven't updated this since the end of June, but I think a lot of the information still remains the same. But in terms of visitors, what they're saying is that more than half of all assisted living communities and states in DC prohibit visitors, while 21 states recommend that assisted living facilities prohibit visitors, and 2 states provide no guidance on visitation to assisted living communities. In terms of visitors, each state's guidance delineates specific criteria that visitors must meet in order to visit a family member in assisted living. These include the visitor must be screened and symptom checked for exposure and or symptoms of COVID-19. Visitors should wear PPE and practice the universal COVID-19 precautions as put forth by the CDC, such as hand washing, maintaining a 6-foot distance, avoiding physical contact, wearing a mask. Also, the CDC lists several considerations for visitation when restrictions are being relaxed, including limiting visitors to their loved one's room or another area designated by the community. I typically see this happening outside or at windows. Also requiring visits to be scheduled in advance, permitting visitors only during select hours, allowing just 1 or 2 people at a time to visit a given resident. And then, some states are requiring that children need to be over the age of 12. For health and safety procedures, the federal guidelines call for everyone entering the facility to undergo 100% screening, including checking visitors' temperature, questioning them about symptoms and potential exposure, and observing them for any symptoms or signs of infection. For residents, we're finding that residents should be screened prior to the visit to ensure they're not exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19. One state, Tennessee, does provide exceptions to permit visitors in the event of a resident has symptoms. And again, this is from June. This might have changed since then. But residents should wear a mask if tolerated for the duration of the visit. And in terms of community requirements, we're finding that states are requiring several key steps from the facility in order to resume on-campus outdoor visitation. The facility should set up and manage a schedule for visitation. The community should assign staff members who have been trained in COVID-19 infection control and prevention to assist residents to and from designated visitation spaces, and should remain present to observe the visit while providing space for confidentiality. The community should provide the space, the PPE, and the alcohol-based hand rub for residents and visitors to use during the visit. And then the community should thoroughly disinfect the space used for visits between the scheduled visits and should ensure good airflow and accessibility. And this will be super important as we head into the fall months, and you might not be able to do as many outdoor visits. But then also visitors should be able to access the outdoor visitation space without having to enter any indoors of the community. I was kind of looking at the status of what that looks like currently, but I want to kind of look at some different solutions we see to reconnecting loved ones. So in terms of types of visitation areas, so I think kind of the no-brainer here, and I find more and more communities are setting these up, are visitation stations, which can be purchased as like an out-of-the-box solution. You can also create these using plexiglass stations, whether they're portable or permanent. And then, there are some cost-effective solutions we've seen, such as like clear shower curtain walls. And shout out to Morning Point Senior Living here, who took more of a tropical theme on theirs and really spruced it up and making it feel more homey and less clinical, which I think is vital in a lot of these visitation stations. Another thing we've seen is window visits. So whether that's from personal apartments or designated community spaces, we've seen people that will decorate those specific windows so people know, again, it's more a homey feeling and more of a feeling of having those interactions with people. And we'll kind of go over best practices. But then we also see hugging stations coming out. And shout out to the last two of Commonwealth Senior Living. Just super awesome things. If you're not familiar with a hugging station, it's basically setting up a curtain or a plastic sheet in between people. Again, nothing will ever defeat or beat the idea of physical skin-to-skin contact, but it's great to see that communities are being creative in order to do this. And if you're not familiar with a hugging station, I've got another good news clip for you coming from Solstice at Corpus Christi in Texas. So I'll play this out here for you.
Hope for a better time, hope for a better place for our residents, for their families. Hugs to make them feel like there's hope for our future, that this isn't going to be our future forever, that we will have contact with our family and we will find ways to overcome anything that comes our way.
We have been up to visit him a couple of times where we could pass things to him, but this is the first time we could actually touch him. I think it's great. I hope all the places do it.
A sheet of plastic with holes and specialty sleeves may seem simple, but for the folks here at the center, this divider is special.
It felt great. It would have felt better if it wouldn't have had the gloves and the thing between us, but it felt great.
Oh, I mean, it felt amazing. Like, it's just something you don't want to let go. You just want to keep holding her. I haven't been able to physically touch her since February. The Solstice has done a great job about keeping our families protected, and so it's been a long time coming.
I can't describe it. It's been so long. Usually we're a huggy family. And so not being able to do it for 5 or 6 months, it's been hard.
And, we have to roll with the punches here. And I'm just blown away by the creativity I've seen in some of these communities. We're finding more and more that are doing these other types of safe visits, such as the contactless meeting space, whether you're doing that outside, doing 6 feet, 12 feet apart. I've seen everything where masks need to be worn. I've also seen, drive-through visits, and it's just been a really cool way we've seen. And just a quick example of kind of these drive-through visits. This comes from the park at Piedmont, East Cobb, Georgia. This is a bit outdated back in the May timeframe, but I wanted to showcase this to you as well. So we'll play this out here for you.
For many of us, it has been more than a month since we've seen our loved ones. So today, one senior living center decided to bring families together with a drive-by. Families decorated their vehicles, they honked their horns, they waved at their loved ones living at Park at Piedmont, East Cobb. This is in Marietta. The parade brought joy to residents finally getting to see their relatives. Some of them, it's been almost 2 months since they've seen them. Some folks even came outside to see the parade, but made sure to continue social distancing the whole time.
So right now, this was a perfect opportunity, a gorgeous day to be able to have all of the families be able to come. And they come around and just to be able to spread hope, love, engagement, to let them know that we're all in this together.
Cobb County PD joined in on the fun. They were on site controlling traffic, making sure everyone had a good time today.
And again, just little things that we can do now. How can we be more creative? My hope in this kind of time together, if we can take one idea, one bit of inspiration and really just put that into practice, I would consider this, time well spent. In terms of current best practices we've seen for safe visits, so we need required for visitors to be by appointment only. This really allows for staff to be prepared for each visit and ensures that staff are not scrambling and that all protocols can be followed. You really want to limit visits to certain days and times with caps on frequency. And really what's nice about that is you can help to set up that time between, because it can help to keep staff efficient and nimble, especially as you're doing sanitation between these window visits. It really allows for that ample time to do that. You'll want to set caps on the length of the visit. I've seen anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes typically be sets the standard. But then you'll really want to set expectations for visiting family members in advance. You want to reduce the possibility of residents ignoring protocols. It also supports visits as family members can better explain to residents why certain protocols are in place. Pre-visitation education will help staff enforce procedures without causing more tension. And you'll really want to use signage to help reinforce these procedures. Because you want to keep it top of mind as people are visiting, because you want people to be practicing safe visits. And then of course, you'll want to look to provide PPE to visitors and residents with appropriate disposal bins. And also consider asking for proof of testing results from visitors ahead of time. In terms of ways to improve the visitation experience, so you'll ultimately want to make this as much as a positive interaction as you can. One of the ways that we find is just improving two-way communications, really looking for that way to improve that capabilities between resident and family, allowing for those better two-way communications and more positive interactions. We find that Wi-Fi and cellular problems are an issue in communities today, as infrastructure may not be up to par, or just might have some dead spots. But how hearing and quality of conversation is huge when you're looking at your visitation stations or window visits, or however you're thinking about doing family visits in the near future. One of the things you can look to do is consider adding these arms, the safe arms to your station for that safe in-person contact, safe arms, hugging station. We're also looking to create a comfortable environment. So consider decorating the visitation station to reflect holidays, seasons. Of course, remember the temperature, depending on where you are. I'm right outside Boston. We're starting to head into fall time here, but definitely look for areas to use fans or hydration stations for some of those warmer places. And really look to set up these visitation experiences and treat them like a concierge service, and rolling out the red carpet. I've yet to see a community actually do that, but it could be a cool idea that you could take back to your community. Another super simple thing, and I see it happening time and time again, of doing these visits by paper, pen and paper when people call in. There's different things, and I'll touch on some of the different technology that you can take advantage of, but looking to make scheduling easy and really to automate the appointment services and check-in services and make it even simpler on the back end. if you spend some time on the front end to set this up, it should be able to help and take time away from answering the phones and scheduling meetings that way. But then also you'll want to create and execute a regular communication plans to residents and families. I've been blown away by seeing how communities are getting creative using social media and really able to keep families in the loop of all the amazing things that are happening in a community, because let's be honest, some of these communities are some of the safest places for residents today. In terms of physical distancing technology that can help support residents and teams, so just to name a few here, so AccuShield, the AccuShield sign-in kiosk for places that paper sign-in logs and entrances to senior living communities. It really gives operators the ability to sign in, record body temperature, and ask CDC recommended COVID-19 screening questions for every staff member, visitor, and third-party caregiver that enters. And one of the cool things, they have that record body temperature or record body temperature. I did a webinar with them a couple months ago, and they basically said if temperature is over a certain degree, it can send alerts and notifications out to really make sure that that person who is displaying that fever, shouldn't visit. Then we see things coming from like Connected Living and Temi, where Connected Living had partnered with the company Temi to offer the Temi robot to senior living communities. It's powered by Connected Living. It's able to capture temperatures of guests completely hands-free, sanitize surfaces, and be a telehealth machine. And it's pretty much, you can think about it as a iPad or a something like that. I'm blanking on the other name for them, but it's on wheels and it's like a personal robot, and it's able to travel around the community. But then we find things like Skybot, which is a robot that disinfects rooms using UV light, and it acts like a Roomba. And for those that don't know what a Roomba is, it's like moving around the community and able to help keep things disinfected. In terms of scheduling visits, so Calendly, Setmore, and Genius Signup are all digital platforms that automate and digitize the appointment schedule experience for families. And the nice thing about it, I believe that all three of them have a free level. And if they don't, you can definitely, I would suggest reaching out to them, telling them about your situation, your solution, and they may even give it to you at a bigger discount or really try and help you guys out on that end. In terms of visitation booths, so Clear Connection from Thrive Senior Living, I'll show you an example of that here momentarily, but there's other companies out there like Stark Systems that's basically created a plexiglass system that's super easy to set up, and they can ship that anywhere. I do see a lot of the times that the teams are building these from scratch, and I'm totally blown away by seeing those as well. In terms of smart tech, apps, and family connection, so there's in-house applications being built. I saw Atria Senior Living created an app that can track residents' COVID-19 symptoms and really communicate that out with their families. And Atria, I always feels like is ahead of the curve on a lot of this technology stuff. But then we also see companies like It's Never Too Late, a good friend of ours. They have these tablets that are being used to really help communicate with families, whether it's through video calls, but they're also able to do telehealth appointments through them, but they're also able to be customized and personalized to the individuals that are using it. In terms of social media scheduling, so there's things like Hootsuite and Buffer, which I believe also have free instances where you can basically spend an hour of your day on a Monday and schedule the social media posts for the rest of the week. Again, and what's nice about that is you can do things in advance, but also, as good things are happening at the community, you'll want to push that out through your social media as well. And then we see, email marketing like MailChimp or Constant Contact. I think a lot of the communities now have some sort of form of email marketing just to keep families in the loop. And there's different ways you can set it up, I believe, through scheduling apps that you can have things kind of sync together. So a lot of opportunities there in terms of what you can do together. And just a few examples here. So on the top left, we've got Connected Living or the Temi robot. So again, that's a robot on wheels that's traveling around the community. On the bottom left, we have the IN2L tablet. In the middle here, we've got the Sky robot, which is the thing that actually travels around and cleans with UV lights. And then on the right here, we've got Thrive Senior Living's Clear Connection. And I want to share this with you because Thrive Senior Living, awesome leadership there. They actually made the outline and kind of the instructions. You can kind of think of it as like IKEA instructions. You just need to get the tools to create your own Clear Connection booth. Here's that website. Just thrivesl.com/clear-connection.com. but I'll play this out here so you can kind of get an idea of what that's all about.
Well, social distancing has been an adjustment for all of us, but for seniors and families, the separation came early. And here in Georgia, Governor Kemp says seniors should continue to shelter in place until May 13th. But as Liza Lucas shares, one Atlanta-based senior community has a solution to keep families connected in the weeks to come. Take a look.
My dad will be 89 this year, and he is in Georgia Lakeside and moved in there in January, actually, with my mom.
Colleen Ristall's dad has not been a Thrive resident for long, but with his move came a lot of change. He lost his wife of more than 60 years to cancer, and then came COVID-19.
They came in and told us what was happening and that we were going to have to leave, which, you know, was heartbreaking, but we understood, you know, he's got heart disease and, you know, we needed to keep him safe.
We made some tough decisions really early on in this process to shut all of our buildings to visitors.
Despite knowing it was the right call, Thrive Senior Living founder Jeremy Ragsdale saw families' heartbreak and decided to do something about it.
Not the most handy person in the world, but my dad has a woodworking shop. So we jumped in there and ended up creating a polycarbonate glass panel that rolls around. We can move it in and out, and we custom built them to fit inside the front doors of each one of our communities and create a venue where residents and their families can visit in a safe way.
Hello. Hey! The resulting reunions emotional. A gift Colleen says she and her siblings are grateful for.
He came walking in and a big smile on his face and just looked great.
The Thrive team now working to install panels in all of its communities.
Our teams are booking time windows for families to visit with residents all day, every day.
The look on his face when he sees me and, you know, when I'm leaving every time, he says, "Thank you so much for coming, Colleen." And I said, "Oh, so it's the best part of my day, Dad."
Well, the Thrive Senior Living team even posted the plans on their website in hopes that the idea is replicated in other communities as well.
And as she mentioned, you know, replicating that. So if you go to that website right there, they've kind of got the specs out. And shout out to Jeremy and his team over at Thrive. Really, really good people to kind of make that available to anybody and everybody. I think when we talk about all these safe family visits, you know, there's one of the things that I keep seeing and hearing from some of our partners and some from the communities that we're talking to is really, you know, what is the 80-20 of these visits? Pareto's principle, if you guys believe in that, the idea of, you know, 20% of the effort will give you 80% of the results. And what seems to be the common theme here is how can we enhance that two-way communications while being physically distanced, whether that's 6 feet apart outside, through windows. What we're finding, especially with this, is that there's bigger problems at play, especially for helping those older adult users, because what we find is that hearing loss really impacts 80% of people over the age of 85. And I think a lot of people's first thought is if they can't hear, let's get them a hearing aid. But what the numbers say is that less than 1 in 5 that could benefit from a hearing aid are actually using it on a consistent basis. So there's a big gap there, and, you know, reasons why: price, quality, stigma, usage, level of care, you know, you name it, of why that adoption rate isn't higher. But the inability to hear during these visits really set it up for potentially negative interactions. And what we're finding too, especially if someone can't hear and they're reading lips, you know, masks really impact that ability to hear, even if things are muffled, but reading lips as well. And I was talking to an executive director the other day, or doing outside visits 12 feet apart to be extra careful. Everyone has to wear masks. And what she basically told me was that they have to have a translator in the middle because nobody can hear each other. And it's with these problems and kind of thinking through them that we're finding that these positive interactions are at risk. Because if you ever find yourself in a situation where you can't hear, you can't participate, you know, again, what I saw with my grandmother, it just really limits that time where it could be a positive interaction. In terms of the solutions we see being used in communities, but some have, you know, different limitations. So cell phones or handheld phones. We've also seen people doing it on iPads and phones, whether doing FaceTimes with people through the audio and having people in the outdoors. I've also heard that could be a little bit confusing. Also intercoms, we've seen intercoms be used, but there's definitely limitations with that. And then walkie-talkies or baby monitors, we see that being used as well to try and help facilitate this safe two-way communication. And some of the challenges, preaching to the choir on this one, but just like inconsistent Wi-Fi and cellular, training residents can sometimes be hard on new technology, and then the sound quality might not be the best. I hear it time and time again, people visiting but unable to hear each other, and just looking for ways to really enhance that. And, happy to share of how we're working with communities today. We have a visitation pack that really helps facilitate some of these two-way communications. Of course, I'm biased. This is the company that I helped start. But if you just even are proactive and looking for ways to better help residents to hear their loved ones, working with us or not working with us, consider us an ally in this with you. Happy to help in any way that we can. But pretty much this is a plug-and-play system that helps us facilitate these safe family visits and do it in a two-way communication. And I wish we could take credit for this idea, but basically we're working with communities that were using Eversound for their group programming and just repurposing their packages to help facilitate some of these safe family visits. So a couple of examples here in Houston, Texas at Belmont Village. They're taking the whole Romeo and Juliet approach off the balcony, where this individual is able to talk to her great-granddaughter in there, because the range of the system, you're looking about 300 feet in all directions. In the middle here at Heritage of Sandy Plains of Saul Bear Living in Marietta, Georgia, they're using the system to read a picture book to her mother that, again, they have to be 6 feet apart, but doing this, she's able to hear her daughter. And then on the right here, we have Miss Josie, which has become my new favorite picture. You probably see it behind me here in my home office. But Miss Josie was celebrating her 100th birthday, which she looks amazing, I must say. Her family wanted to understandably and rightfully visit, and they're able to use the Eversound system to really sing to her and talk to her and have those moments of great two-way communication. And to stay current with the theme of news clips here, I want to just play this out here for you, and then we'll jump into how we can continue to keep spirits high in communities today.
Beth Yates has the story.
Well, the elderly are among the most vulnerable to the coronavirus pandemic, and now a flagship program is making sure they stay in touch.
When we used to go to the beach, was it hot? Do you remember, Mom?
Conversations like this one have become more common at Arbor Terrace at Crabapple Senior Living Center, despite residents not being allowed to have visitors.
Our residents and our families are not allowed to interact one-on-one personally face-to-face, but we've been able to offer them virtual visits through the windows. And now we're able to offer them virtual visits 6 feet apart.
The visits are made possible by a two-way communication technology launched by Eversound. And for family members who had not been able to communicate with their loved ones, it is making a world of difference.
When I meet her out here, as if she acts as if I'm not there, and as soon as I put the headset on, she sort of perks up. She pays attention when I speak, so I know she's hearing it. She even talks.
Since the pandemic, Martin Wolf says he's had trouble interacting with his wife, but the Eversound technology amplifies the audio, making it possible to communicate when other technology, like the telephone, has not worked well.
With her, it's been tremendous. With myself, I have atrocious hearing and nothing helps, but for me, it's been great.
And Arbor Terrace at Crabapple officials say the benefits of the visits are far-reaching.
Engagement is one of the major components that helps all of us, not just seniors, slow down the aging process. That day-to-day interaction with the staff, the day-to-day interaction with their loved ones is so critical in keeping their emotions at the very highest.
Officials tell us after a successful test run of the program, they'll now be implementing it at other locations. Beth Yates, CBS 46 News.
And shout out to our partners there, Arbor Terrace at Crabapple and Alpharetta. It's just amazing to see how they're using it. And I think, another theme you can take out of this, if you are doing safe family visits, it's a great way to drum up some positive press that I think in the world today we all need. In terms of really empowering and working with communities and helping to keep their spirits high, some good tips that we've learned for residents is just maintaining regular schedules. So, eating around the same time, if you're doing group programming, doing those around the same time, doing visits around the same time. Also encouraging families to send, personal gifts, whether it's cards or something else, something more meaningful. Reinforce safety with fun activities. So I've seen it time and time again of people doing like Name That Tune, where again, we can be physically distanced, but still socially connected. And then also adopting a buddy system. So I see this happening in like independent living, assisted living, and even those living with dementia, just adopting a buddy system among residents. And if you hear background noise, I think the dump truck outside just decided to show up. So if you hear that, that is them taking care of what they need to take care of. But family, some of the ways we find to keep morale up there is just keep communicating with them. Being ultra transparent in these times, we find is just the way to go. You know, keeping the pulse of what's going on, whether, you know, positive, negative, or neutral. Just make sure that you're continuing to communicate with families, continuing to share those guidelines and expectations as it's made available to you. Increase that social media presence. You know, invite your families to follow you on Facebook or Instagram. I'm even seeing some TikToks come out now. It's just a really cool way to keep people engaged. And then as people are commenting on it, making sure you're proactive and responding back to them, whether it's positive or negative or neutral as well. And then giving families action items. You know, what we're finding is that family members may be feeling helpless right now, and since they're unable to see or touch their loved ones, so provide family members with ideas from engaging from afar, such as sending care baskets, if your community allows those, providing a regular schedule of virtual visits, or have fun items in your visitation booth like table topic cards. I've seen Holsty cards be super popular. It's just like really meaningful questions that you can ask people. So it's just a great way to get conversations going. In terms of staff, really, you know, just a good reminder, prioritize and require self-care. You know, healthcare workers tended to prioritize self-care because they are such givers. As with the staff, you know, sharing those positive COVID-19 news, you know, I think senior care has received disproportional brunt of bad news in relation to COVID. And while it's important to keep up to date with regulations, don't forget to share the positive news. Again, look to adopt a buddy system in staff, whether you're doing staff and residents or staff to staff. But then there's easy ways too, if you're a community member, you're looking to give recognition, like a kudo board. And if for those of you that don't know what a kudo board is, there's different use cases out there, but you can kind of think of it as a digital card. So my wife recently turned 30 years old. And basically, we couldn't do anything, so I had people from all over the country write into her. There are free instances on this, but you can also get, like, I had 85 entries on this card for her for like $6. So if it's a resident's milestone birthday, if it's, you know, a staff member's birthday, or they did something good and you're looking for appreciation across the board, there could be things to do in this end. In terms of the future, so we've kind of looked at, you know, what's brought us here today. The current state, but in terms of the future of really in-person visits, in terms of planning for them, what we're finding is that, like, most experts will say that this will be around for a while, you know, until we really find a vaccine, and even from there, there'll still be a delay in terms of like when everybody can get it. But in terms of communities, you know, what we're looking for, or what we're finding is kind of the future is regular community-wide testing. You know, I think that's really the key to identifying who has it, and making sure that they're self-quarantining to prevent it from spreading to other people, but really having that regular community-wide testing. You know, the updated training protocols that are really adjusting with the different states, the different counties, and the different cities. Having large numbers of PPE available is definitely in the future. Communication solutions are a need to have. Again, two-way communications, it really allowing for that positive interactions. Finding that 50% capacity in most areas. I know we're starting to open up more dining halls and public places, but finding that will probably be a better situation moving forward. Looking for that increased communication with families. So again, through social media, email marketing, even just picking up the phone and giving them a call. And also improving that tech infrastructure. I think we've kind of all seen communities adopting more technology now because they pretty much have to. And I think we're going to continue to see that improving the infrastructure and just adopting more technology will become the norm. In terms of residents, finding that limiting visitation and increased virtual visits, regular testing and monitoring of symptoms, you know, looking for more engagement-free technology. And we're also seeing this increased adoption of telehealth. From the family side, you know, testing before visiting will be the new norm. You know, it's just, again, rapid testing across the board, I think is really the key here. Having ongoing limiter or visitor limitations, and then increased community communication and transparency between the families and the residents. You know, I think over communicating at this point is really the way to go. But as we look to the future, we may have to look to the past and the way past with some of the cool things that are coming out from the Dino Do-Gooders in Concord, North Carolina. So I'll play this out here for you.
Welcome back. Today's good news story of the day is simply Jurassic. Dressed in inflatable dinosaur costumes, this group of friends created Dino Do-Gooders, and their motto, tiny arms, big hearts. Let's meet one of the do-gooders now from Concord, North Carolina, Kat Harmon. Good morning, Kat. That's so cute, that photo.
Hi.
Good morning. So glad to be here.
We are thrilled to have you here. What a great idea.
Yeah, tell us about how you came up with it.
So, you know, I'm a yoga teacher, and I've been teaching my yoga classes via Zoom because we can't go in studio right now. And one of the founding members of the Dino Do-Gooders, Valerie Pinnock, has this dinosaur costume on, and she's doing yoga in the class. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to do something with it. So we started to brainstorm on what we could do. Later on in the day, I spoke with my mom about some family members that I have up north that are in assisted living facilities, and they don't have any visitors, and it's kind of lonely and a little, you know, kind of just breaks your heart a little bit. So that kind of came together with the dinosaur idea, and Valerie got us booked at our first place in Concord, Crescent Heights. And with that, we also invited our other two founding members, Heather Price and Tuxedo Cat, and we just had a ball.
This is the greatest thing I have ever seen, Kat. I don't mind telling you. I want to join your group in the worst way.
Please.
Look at that unicorn.
Yes.
What's been the reaction from people and residents in the facilities? And
Oh my gosh. So it's fantastic. We get close to the windows so we can see them. The staff is excited almost as much as the residents. It is fantastic. The amount of it's amazing. It's so much fun.
And you say you do this every 2 weeks. Will you keep doing it?
Yeah, actually we're booked through August right now. So if anybody has a place locally that they'd want us to join, please reach out onto the website, or you can create your own faction of it, and you can learn some of the dances that we do as well, and we can just keep this spreading out into the world.
Kelly, we could just have a couple of, Albert and Andy dress up behind you in the backyard right there and do it live.
I don't even need the costume because my arms are so short. I am essentially a dinosaur. What you're looking at is a human dinosaur. So put me in, Coach. I'm ready.
Oh my gosh. We would love that.
Now, Kat, you have a 3-year-old daughter. Does your daughter also have a dino costume?
Yes, she got her first costume. So this Sunday will be her debut. She loves it. She's excited.
That's so cute.
Great. So great.
We talked to a lot of people with different, interesting, enterprising ideas. This is at the top of the list of favorites. So thank you so much for coming on to share it with us, Kat.
Oh, thank you so much for having us and letting us spread this message of, just be kind in the face of fear.
Yeah,
Dino Do-Gooder.
Really, so great. Oh, Dino Do-Gooders. Yes.
KellyandRyan.com for more information on that, but that was pretty much life this morning.
And so you can check them out here. So if anybody is in the Concord, North Carolina area, feel free to reach out to them and want to offer it up. If anybody is in the Boston area and wants to do this, I'm happy to do it. It seems like a fun thing and just a small thing that we can do to just bring some joy and spread some positive energy into the world. So for me, I haven't been monitoring the chat. I have seen different things popping up in there, but would love to open it up for questions. Thank you guys. You could have been anywhere in the world during this time, and I appreciate you making some time with me. I hope you have a couple ideas coming out of it. Micah, do you want me to just kind of go through the chat here, or do you want to
sharing?
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. And everybody, I will get.
You got a bunch of freebies.
Yeah, I'll get your those freebies from Matt at the end of this call, and I will add that in my email after this call, so everybody will have that. So if you have a question, either lift up your hand or use the cool reactions emoji hand raise. Whatever you feel like you're able to do. I hear some background noise, but I can't see where it is coming from. Does anybody have any questions for Matt or some other ideas that you've been doing in your community to keep your residents engaged? I just see a lot of great thanks. And feel good. Does nobody have any questions? Like nobody has a hand to raise or a thought or anything at all? Nobody? Up, here we go. Okay, Karen Decker, you go first. Go ahead, Karen. Karen, you're unmuted, I thought anyway. Yeah, you're unmuted. Karen? Okay, I'll let you get that figured out. Cynthia Miller, you had your hand raised too.
Hi, Micah. Hi, everybody. I wanted to share an idea that I had that has become popular in our community. It is a wreath. Let me grab one and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
As she does that, Mike, I just want to point out, people are saying you should dress up in the dino outfit. So
yeah, I think that's my next event will be dressing up as Dino. So I will. Don't worry, you will see that. I just won't be doing it on here. I'll do it on Facebook and everywhere else. So I will be glad to do that.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
This is our wreath that we made out of bandanas that the family members can start out and work in, pass back and forth after time. I would start with maybe a resident and then let the family member finish it off so they can see the finished product or vice versa. We just took a hanger. You just take a regular hanger and then we bought these little bandanas from the Dollar Tree. It takes 4 bandanas, tie them on the wire and they got a wreath. And this is especially good for those that are in their rooms that are not able to come out when they go into a quarantine or they're not able to visit with family necessarily because they got to stay in a room. These are awesome. They've been really a big hit here and we're getting ready to pass out packages just for each member. And you can reach out to your outside people to bring these supplies in. That's what we did.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Karen, were you able to get it?
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
Yay. And I love the wreath idea. That's awesome. That's a fantastic idea. We have had a lot of success with Skype as well. I wanted to mention that is Skype, especially those that are harder of hearing or that going through the glass net. So for some people we still use the virtual things. We use different things even when they're seeing each other. And then others, if their families don't live here, I have a lady who, her daughter Skypes every night and she lives in Canada. But they, so that's, any of the social media platform things, those have been a huge help for us as well.
Awesome.
We did, also I'll share one of our ideas if I can. We did what we called, while we try and do a lot of activities separate from, what they call beyond bingo, but, they love their bingo. And so we got some TV trays and we had the residents come to like their doorway and we called it hallway bingo. And so we called bingo in a hallway. And then when they were done playing, they went to the next hallway and they stayed in their doorway and we called a hallway bingo, and they loved it because they haven't been able to play bingo for a while. We tried the on TV bingo and that, but they wanted to be able to hear each other yell and actually play it.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a good idea.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Anybody else? Lisa, you're unmuted, I see. Mod assured.
Oh, no, that's an accident. Sorry.
Okay,
But
fair
hello,
enough. Accident. Does anybody else have any other questions or comment? Miss Allison Fitch.
Hi. So I work with Adult Protective Services in Fairfax, Virginia, and I know obviously your presentation, thank you so much for that, and really focuses on the facility side of things. And so when we receive cases, obviously we're not able to go out there to meet with the clients directly to hear about those concerns and those experiences. And so we have had a lot of challenges with that to get that addressed. But didn't know if you all or anyone in the group today has any suggestions on how to conduct home visits. And any recommendations on that piece when it's community-based rather than facility. I know a lot of the ones with, you know, maintaining PPE and social distancing and meeting outside and all of those things are wonderful, but if you're somebody who has respiratory issues and cardiac issues, Virginia in August, if you haven't been here, it's humid, it's hot, it's unpleasant, and so it's not good to put people in those situations, nor is it good to have us go into the home. So any and all suggestions would be great. I don't think work is going to approve for me to wear a dino costume, though.
Hey, you never know.
Did you have a comment, Matt, or something to share with that?
I wanted to kind of open that up to the group because we typically work with communities directly, so I'm sure there's someone who's probably got more experience or knowledge on that. So didn't know if anybody else.
Anybody in that does not want to share their screen would like to talk about that or give some advice or suggestions. Let's see. Anybody? Nobody has a comment for Miss Allison or help with Miss Allison. That's a shame. Shame on you. Oh, who's talking?
That's me, it's
Okay.
Karen. I am here in Florida, so our humidity and heat is right up there with you, and wearing the PPE, and then if you have to down a shield and all, you are literally steamed up. You can barely see where you're going. It can be extremely difficult. The only thing I could suggest is to try and schedule visits very early or later in the evening, to not going in the middle of the day when it's very hot. You could try, if they happen to have a screened porch or some type of area where maybe they can stay where they don't have to down, the person doesn't have to down so much PPE as you. Those are, I mean, for here, the doctors and everybody that's doing home visits, they're in the full thing. They're in the N95 mask, the shields, the gloves, the gowns, everything, and they're sweating and steaming like, yeah, it's difficult.
And
but they try and do them all early in the morning or late in the evening.
And then I'm seeing some in the chat, Miss Allison. I don't know if you're seeing them too, of some people that are doing porch visits where they both are wearing masks. And then Serena is also talking about going to the homes and meeting at the door, but not going inside, even talking with masks through the window. So there's just some different discussions there. So those are some things in the chat that have been that people are trying to help you out, Allison. So real quick, before we come to a close, our wonderful Jeremy from Brookdale, who is our sponsor today, has joined us. So I have to give him a chance to share some bits about Brookdale. So before we close, Jeremy, it is on you, sir, before we end the day. Thank you for coming on. Sorry about any confusion.
No, but I can almost 100% guarantee, based on what I know about Matt, that he delivered some really good content. And Matt, we should definitely connect after this. I would love to talk to you further about bringing your product and services here to Brookdale. And not sure if you've communicated with any other Brookdales, but I would love to do that. Again, my name is Jeremy Heeb, and I'm the Director of Business Development here for Brookdale, Shambro, Williamsburg. We are a senior living community here in Brookdale, Williamsburg. I should say historic Williamsburg, Virginia. And forgive me, I'm sweaty. I ran here. I had a cook-along event that I did this morning. There's some delicious food that our chef cooked up today. So I just finished that, and I ran over here as quickly as I possibly could. And I also want to thank Micah for the opportunity to sponsor this event. Wow, give him a hand, because he's been bringing a lot of great speakers, whether they're bringing really just amazing content or great products and services that are really helping the senior living community here in our area, as well as just small businesses in general. So hats off to you, Micah. I'd love to have an opportunity to sponsor some future events that you have, and I also have some other ideas of some potential speakers for you, so we should certainly circle back around. Brookdale Shambro Williamsburg provides independent living, assisted living, as well as memory care. We also have home health services and private duty services. So of course, if you know anybody that might be struggling with the challenges of aging, I'm here to be able to help them. Or if they would prefer to get some services at home, I can help them there as well. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Micah.
Thank you, Jeremy, and I'm glad that you had a good cookout, and I'm sorry that you're sweating. It just looks like you're glistening, really, is what it is.
Well,
it's just glistening.
It's some spicy food, I'll put it that way.
Well, I don't want to take too much more of anybody's time. It's Friday, it's 12 o'clock, so I'm grateful for Jeremy coming on and just doing that. I'm going to stop recording now.